Hi everyone, what we're going to do today is to look at some of the questions that you may face in the Anglo-Saxon and Norman England exam. Now, I'm not going to look at the obvious ones because they've come up a few times and we've really practiced those. So things like Hastings and things like Tostig and why there was a revolt against him, you really need to revise those. We've got loads and loads of links on it. I may touch on a couple of them later, but what I'm going to share with you today is questions that could come up that are a little bit more obscure and how you deal with them. It's all about looking for certain keywords or buzzwords in the questions to know what you're going to be doing. When I say obscure, please don't panic. They cannot be that obscure because everything that's in that exam we have done and we have studied. But what we need to do is make sure that we're aware of what we use when we need to answer these questions. First of all, here's a question that hasn't come up before, and it's about time it did. Explain why the Earls submitted to William at Berkhamsted in 1066. It's pretty obvious that they gave up because they were scared of him, but if we're going to answer a question, we're going to need more than that. I've put together a number of thoughts here that you can use. Please revise at least three so you can answer the question if you need to. Why did they submit to him after 1066? William had already beaten their army. Best Saxon soldiers were killed at Hastings. The Earls didn't have a strong enough army to fight William. They knew they had little chance to win another battle, so they gave up to avoid more deaths. William controls the treasury, which pretty much means that he's got all the money that he would need to buy and pay for as many mercenaries and fighters as he wants to. The Earls are not in that position, so they're weaker. William's march was clever and threatening. As he marched towards London, he destroyed everything along the way to frighten people, and it worked. By the time they got to London, the people were so scared they gave up. And also the Earls didn't think Edgar Atheling could defeat William. He was very young, he didn't have an army, he didn't have enough support. Edwin and Morcar knew that he wouldn't be able to stand up to William. So what they're doing, they're giving in because they're hoping that by doing that they'll save their earldoms. William will let them keep them. And they were right. Another one here, how was William able to establish control over England between 1066 and 1071? So here are some answers, or here are some points that you can learn. Rewards for Normans and Saxons. He rewarded people who helped him to get their loyalty. So he gave land to Normans and he allowed some of the Anglo-Saxons to keep their earldoms if they were loyal to him. He also established control because of the feudal system. It meant that people would support him, fight for him, not fight against him, and because they felt rewarded, they were more likely to obey him. Also, of course, he can take land off them if they behave badly. Building castles, pretty obvious. He built castles all over England. They were used to keep control of towns, of roads, of rivers, of the Saxon people. Any chance that there was trouble, they could send soldiers out of the castle to sort it out. Rebellions were defeated with brutality. Some Saxons tried to fight back. We know about the 4 rebellions in the north. They were all dealt with brutally, frighteningly, especially the harrying of the north, where people saw that William was able and was willing to kill many, many people. So they gave up. They were frightened. This is a big one. Explain how land ownership changed under William I. This is a potential question, and it's really easy. Number one, he takes control of all the land. So all the land in England belongs to him. In Anglo-Saxon times, landowners like earls and thanes, they owned their land. Not now. William just loans them the land as long as they promise loyalty to him. If they break it, he takes it back. Land was taken by forfeit or land grab, so this is how it was taken away from Anglo-Saxons. Forfeit, if an Anglo-Saxon rebelled or didn't show loyalty, William took their land away, legally. Land grab, some Normans took land without permission, especially in the early years. William kind of let it happen to reward them. Over time, almost all Anglo-Saxon landowners lost their land. It was given to Normans instead. And then there's the feudal system, which totally changes how land was owned. Big areas of land given to Norman barons who supported him. They gave William knights and soldiers in return. Of course, the barons then gave smaller parts of their land to knights who also promised loyalty, and the knights replaced the thanes. When a thane died, then they didn't pass their land on. It went back to William, and then it was given to knights. So everyone's got to stay loyal. Everyone's got to do their job in the feudal system, even the peasants working on the land, or they lose it. Here's another one. How did William maintain his royal power in England? This is actually in the textbook, maintaining royal power. So if you see that in a question, these are definitely the points that you want to use. He maintains royal power. Number one, building castles to show strength and stop rebellion. You can use castles in many answers. Feudal system to make people loyal, to make them accountable to him, to make them know they've been rewarded by him, but they could lose it. And then there's the Doomsday Book. This is massive for controlling, maintaining royal power. How? Well, the Doomsday Book has a record of what everybody owns. So he knows exactly what he can tax them, exactly how much money he can get out of them. It also is very useful because it gives him total control of England. He knows exactly how many soldiers people have. So it's harder for them to rebel against him. Explain how power was centralised in Norman England. Centralised just means power was brought under mostly William's control. If you see that term, centralised, it's the same old story. The feudal system centralises power because everyone owes their loyalty to the king. And if they break that oath, then he'll take land away from it. It's easy for him to control the whole country because his barons are controlling the country for him. If they don't, they lose their land. Knight service. Knights were given land by lords if they promised to fight for the king. They had to fight for 40 days, or they had to serve the lord for 40 days. But the big thing here, the knights are not under the control of the baron. They are directly under the control of the king. The barons can't do what they like with these knights. Only the king can. So it centralises power. Lords have got a load of knights, heavily armed knights on their lands, but they're not loyal primarily to the baron. Of course they are, but mostly they're loyal to the king. Doomsday Book, everything's written down. He knows exactly who owns what, exactly how much tax they should pay. He also can see who's got power, who's got land, so he can make sure no one gets too powerful. Fiefs and homage, well, basically, if you have land, a fief from the king, you've got to do homage. You've got to come and you've got to kneel in front of him and you've got to swear to be loyal. If you then break that, you lose your land, probably your life. Explain why Lanfranc reformed the English church. This is a biggie, I think. There'll be something about the church. I don't know in what context, but I've done as much as I can to kind of guess what it'll be. Why did Lanfranc reform the English church? Well, basically, he wants to make it more loyal to the Normans. He believes that before the Normans arrived, the church was weak and full of bad behaviour. Corruption. Some English priests were married or not living proper religious lives. Lanfranc made new rules to make priests live more strictly and follow church law. To make the church support William, Lanfranc made sure all bishops were loyal to the king. He replaced Saxon bishops with Norman ones who would obey William. So if you're answering the question that we looked at earlier about centralising power, the church made to support William. Make the church more powerful. Lanfranc gave more control to the archbishop, made sure the churches followed the same rules, helped the church look more professional, and helped the Normans control the country better. So he reforms the church so it is powerful in all parts of the land, helps William control the people because they're afraid of the church. They believe everything they're told. He also reforms it because it is totally corrupt. Stigand was a pluralist. He had more than one job so he could get loads of money. And he sold jobs to people for profit. Lanfranc hated that. Why did people resent the forest laws? Forest laws were when William made new forests that only he could use for hunting and his friends. So people weren't allowed to hunt there. So if they were hungry, if they were starving, if they needed food like deer or rabbits, they couldn't go and get it. If they broke the laws, if they were caught cutting down a tree in the royal forest because they wanted firewood, they were fined. It was really unfair to people, especially if they're poor, because they need the resources to survive. Land was cleared to make royal forests for hunting, so they would burn down villages to make areas for hunting, so Anglo-Saxons lost their homes and they became very angry about that. Stigand, why was he criticised as Archbishop of Canterbury? This is going on a limb. It's very niche, but it's good to know because if it comes up and we know it, then wow. He was corrupt, he took bribes, he let people pay for their church jobs. This is called simony or simony, and it was against church rules. He didn't act as a holy or strict church leader, and it made many people think he wasn't a good example. He had more than one job at once. He was Archbishop of Canterbury and Bishop of Winchester, Pluralism, this means, as in not singular, plural. It was banned by the church, so he's breaking the law. He was doing this to make more money. He cared more about power than religion. He was appointed by and loyal to the Godwin family. The Godwins had Stigand made archbishop, so he would do what the Godwins said, not the Pope, not even Edward. The Pope didn't even like him. It made the Norman church think he had no real authority. So they got rid of Stigand because he was loyal to the Anglo-Saxons, and they wanted someone loyal to the Normans. William had greater control of England than Edward the Confessor. How far do you agree? This has never been asked, and I just got a weird feeling that they would do, if they're looking for a more difficult question to sort out those top grades, it's something like this they do. And it's pretty easy, really. So you've got to know what Edward did and why he was powerful as a king and his weaknesses, and the same for William. So the agreements, why has William got more power than Edward? Number one, he used the feudal system. Everyone has to obey him. He stays in power because all power comes from him. Under Edward, people like the Godwins owned their own land. They were richer than him, wealthier than him. William would never let that happen. He built castles all over England, which Edward didn't, stopped rebellions, scared people into behaving. He used the Domesday Book to control people and collect taxes. And he owned all the land, like I said earlier. They only got land if they were loyal to him. It gave the king more power. It didn't work like that with Edward. Edward had less control. Well, maybe, but if we're looking for reasons to say that he had lots of control, he was respected as a holy man, chosen by God. Listen to him out of respect. Edward was weaker than the earls. That's the problem. Powerful earls like Godwin had more money, more soldiers, more land. He let them become more powerful than him. William would never allow that. William made sure no one was more powerful than him. He only gave land to loyal Normans, so he stayed the strongest. He also made sure the amount of land they got was smaller than the Saxons got before. So there's an overall agreement. Basically, William is more powerful, but Edward's, he's got his strengths as well. William's control of England was secure by 1071. How far do you agree? So this basically, 1071 is the end of the Anglo-Saxon revolts. So yes, he crushed all the rebellions, including Herod the Wake. There were no big uprisings left. He had castles built everywhere to stay in charge. He replaced Saxons with loyal Normans. That's all you need. Disagree. Some Saxons still hated him. Some were angry about losing land and power. He had to use fear and force. If his control was so secure, why has he got to harry the north? Why is he got to build all these castles? Why has he got to use soldiers to control the people? And then in 1075, all right, I'm going further than 1071, but I'm showing that his rule isn't secure. The revolt of the Earls, 1075, Normans were starting to turn against him now. So some Normans weren't loyal. It means his control wasn't totally secure. So he was in strong control. He'd stopped all the Saxon rebellions, but there were still threats. England changed completely during William's reign. How far do you agree? Well, loads of things changed. You just need to list them. The way the land was owned, castles were built, the church was reformed, the Domesday Book was written. You don't need 6 or 7 things. 3 will do. Disagree. Some things changed a little or stayed the same. The peasants' lives didn't change much. They still worked on the land, they paid their taxes and followed local lords. The laws and the money were similar, and the language didn't change overnight. They didn't start speaking French, the peasants. They still spoke English. It took a long time for that to change. So lots changed, but some things didn't. William I was a good king. Well, I don't think you get a question like this. It is a little bit tenuous, but you might be able to use it as a bullet point or something. William's got strong control. Everyone swears loyalty to him. He's got the Domesday Book. He's got lots of castles. So he's well organised, made sure people follow the rules. But he rules with fear. It's harsh. Harrying of the North killed lots of innocent people. He used violence to stop rebellions. Not kindness, not fairness. Some saw him as a foreign ruler who didn't care for the English people. Many people suffered under his rule. A good king should protect his people, not hurt them. So you've got a balanced argument at the end. He's a good king if you value strength, but not if you value fairness. Why did Lanfranc reform the church in Norman England? Kind of similar to what I've said before. Make the church more loyal to the Normans, remove corrupt or married Anglo-Saxon priests, increase the church's power and influence over people. I'll let you pause and read that if you want to. Norman church was the most important way William controlled England. How far do you agree? Dead easy question. Yes, because Lanfranc made lots of changes to the church. He removed Anglo-Saxon bishops, replaced them with Normans. They were loyal to William. Priests followed strict rules. Church was more organised. Important, though, the church taught people to obey their king, said that William was chosen by God. It helps William keep control. So the most important bit about that, the church reforms help William control England because it preaches to people that William is the rightful king, chosen by God. They have to trust him or they'll be punished. Disagree. There are other ways he controls England, and we know what they are. The feudal system, castles, the Domesday Book. And then you've got a balanced conclusion there as well. Biggest change after the Norman conquest was the role of the church. How far do you agree? Another easy question. If you revise the church to answer the other questions, you can just change things around for this simply. Yeah, it was reorganised. The leaders were replaced. You've got rid of Stiggins. You've got Lanfranc. You've got following stricter rules, spreading Norman ideas, knocking down the old churches and building new Norman-esque ones. Church also helped teach people that William had been chosen by God. Disagree. Look at the other changes. The biggest one is how William took control of all the land. You can talk about the feudal system. You can talk about castles. Remember, you only need to talk about 3 things, really, to answer this question. 4 if you really, really want to hammer it home. And then you've got a balanced conclusion there. How did Lanfranc change the Norman church? We're on a theme here, aren't we? Stricter rules, owned church courts, replaced Anglo-Saxons with Normans, made the church more organised. Just know 3 of those, really, and be able to peel them. Here we go. The main reason William won the Battle of Hastings was Harold's mistakes. How far do you agree? We've done this to death, so I'm going to let you go over it and remember it in your own time. There are agreement points, there are disagreement points. Maybe pause, take them down, and know them. Questions not been asked like this before. Sometimes they ask questions about Hastings, but it often comes up, so it's worth knowing. Saxon revolts failed because they were poorly led. How far do you agree? I like the idea of this question because it's a bit different, never been asked before. I'd like you to know this, please. Poorly led? Yes, they were poorly led. The rebels did not work together. They rebelled in different places around England at different times. Edwin and Morcar didn't talk to other Anglo-Saxons to coordinate the uprising. Made it easier for William to squash them because he's only dealing with one at a time. Bad decisions. Edwin and Morcar gave up in 1068. In 1069, Edgar Atheling gave up, ran off to Scotland. The Danes ran away instead of fighting. They couldn't be trusted to finish the job. So that's bad leadership by Edgar, Edwin and Morcar, and the Danes. Some rebels weren't even English. Herod the Wake got help from the Danes, but they're more interested in stealing than helping. Poor leadership meant the rebellions were weak. But then again, it's not just because Saxon revolts were weak, it's because William was strong. Castles everywhere scared people into giving up. Harsh punishments. When he gets there to deal with the rebellion, it's the harrying of the north. Thousands of people killed, destroyed. People were too scared to keep fighting. And the rebels didn't have enough support. They were often outnumbered and outmatched. Main reason for the harrying of the north was revenge. How far do you agree? Well, on the one hand, you've got revenge because 700 soldiers were killed in York. His friend Robert Cumin was killed, so he's furious. He wants to punish people. He burns villages and crops to get back at them. It's revenge. He made people starve to get back at them. It's revenge. But on the other hand, there are other reasons, not just revenge. He wanted to stop future rebellions. He wanted to make sure that people were too scared to rise up again. He needed to show the North was in charge, and he was worried about help from other countries, like the Danes. He wanted to destroy the North so the Danes could not help. So yes, it was revenge because of the death of his men and Robert Cumin, but no, it wasn't. It was more than that. He wanted to destroy the North because it was full of Danes, and he wanted to make sure the Danes could never come back and use it as a base, and he wanted to show people who was in charge. Castles were the most important way William controlled England. How far do you agree? Dead easy. Agree, castles, what did they do? Stop rebellion, scared people, bases for Norman soldiers. But on the other hand, other things are important for him to control. The Domesday Book, replacing Saxon leaders, and the feudal system, of course. Main purpose of the Domesday Book was financial. How far do you agree? This is dead easy because there's only 3 uses of the Domesday Book. One is financial, like it says there. Yeah, you could find out who owns what and how much you've got to charge them, how much tax you can get. But also, it helps William to control the land. He can decide who's in the right, who's in the wrong. So if somebody says, oh, I own this land, William could go, no, you don't. I've looked in the book. I can show you that somebody else owns the land. So it's good for legal reasons as well. It proves who's in charge. Supports the feudal system. It helps him to run it smoothly. But basically, you've got three areas, right? Financial, it helps him collect money. Military, he knows exactly who has got what soldiers, how many people live in an area, how many soldiers he can get for his army, but also who's got room to look after his soldiers if he needs to put them into an area ready to fight. And then there's the legal aspect as well. If someone comes to make a complaint because of land grabbing, William can look in the Domesday Book and decide who owns the land. It can show that he's a fair king by not allowing Normans to do land grabs. There are three basic reasons. Please know them. Explain how William centralised Norman government. So easy, but people freak when they see the word centralised. Don't. Centralises it means how does he make it all about him, basically? And it's this: he controls all the land. Yeah, he gives land, but he can take it back. He uses the feudal system to keep control. He created strong government systems. Here's the big one: sheriffs. Royal sheriffs run the counties or the shires. They collect tax, stop rebellions, follow the king's orders. He will write down orders, a writ, and he'll send them to all his sheriffs. They'll open them, they'll obey. So his central power is key. Domesday Book gives him information about the land, wealth, and people. He could make smart decisions and settle disputes fairly. Please, please, be able when you revise to tell me three ways in which he centralised the government. Controlling the land, using the feudal system, using the shire reeves, making everybody swear the oath of loyalty. The oath of Salisbury, promising loyalty. Don't worry about the oath of Salisbury. An oath of loyalty will do, okay? There's more than three there, but you know what I mean. Right, that is it. Obviously, there's more to revise. The things about Tostig and Gate Fulford and Stamford Bridge, but they're really obvious. Anglo-Saxon society, those tend to be feature questions. So all I need you to do for me, please, is make sure you're able to answer those questions. Revise the church, revise the submission of the earls, revise those rebellions as well, please. Yeah, so we're talking about Edwin and Morcar's revolt. We're talking about the revolt in the north with Edgar. We're talking about the second revolt in the north where the Danes join in, which leads to the harrying. And then we're talking about Herod the Wake. Later on, 1075, you need to know about the revolt of the Earls. You're talking about when the Normans tried to revolt against William. What happened? Why did it fail? Lanfranc steps in with the church, so it's a really good one to know. Right, that will help. Please spend the time having a look at it. Ask me any questions if you need to. And I'll be back online soon doing the American West videos to pop up. Okay, see you soon. Good luck.